G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here and watching my content. I really do appreciate it. You are here today because it's Six Nations this weekend. It's La Crunch time. England versus France at Twickenham. Steve Borthwick has a golden opportunity this weekend to topple the Grand Slam champions of last year in front of a home crowd and prove to his superiors, to his country, that the millions of dollars they spent buying out his contract and the millions of dollars further wasted getting rid of Eddie Jones is totally worth it. And that him, Steve Borthwick, can take England to the Rugby World Cup and beyond and bring victory back to Twickenham. Okay? And sure enough, with all that pressure on his shoulders, the axe has been swung. Yes, the top dog, the captain, Owen Farrell, has been cut. He's dropped to the bench due to probably most glaringly the goal kicking issues coming out of the last couple of rounds now. And Marcus Smith, following a pretty good performance for his club last weekend, has been called in to fill the 10 jersey and most importantly to fill the goal kicking. There was some talks that Owen Farrell was seeking goal kicking tips from Johnny Wilkinson himself, but yeah, wasn't enough to keep him into the starting spot. And yeah, that is the big news. Also, with that being said, Owen Farrell being dropped leads to the new captain being announced, which is Ellis Genge, coming in the loose air proposition. Colin Laws was supposed to be potentially the vice captain, or many believe to be the captaincy, but he's injured again. So yeah, Ellis Genge gets his first cap as the England captain, going in against the French. Pretty big calls for the England side. For the French team, they are actually hamstrung a little bit going into this game against England, especially in that tight head prop position. Two of their starting tight head props for the last over the last 3 rounds has been red carded. So both of them were banned for the rest of the Six Nations, and now the Demba Bamba has been out for quite a while now due to a leg injury. So the French is left with pretty much like the fourth selection to start against England, and we know there's a reason that Ellis Genge, the loose air prop, is handed the captaincy, because he is a very devastating scrummager. So the England scrum could potentially just completely destroy the French. We have to wait and see. They have been giving troubles to a lot of teams so far in the Six Nations. But the good news for the French, Jonathan Dante returns to the fold in that inside centre position, bringing in more power and physicality in that back line. The two teams lines up in overall, the England has had more wins overall over France. So 60 wins for England, 42 wins for French. But in recent times, it's been tic-tacking along. So every time the game is played in England, it's pretty much England's winning. The French haven't been England at Twickenham since 2007, and vice versa. Pretty much, not always, pretty much every time England play France in France, England has lost. Not always, but mostly it's the task. It's a hand is for the French to beat England at Twickenham, which is something that hasn't been achieved since 2007. So that's another huge what do you call it, hurdle for the French to get over to try to win this match. The weather, this will be at Twickenham. There will not be a roof. Everybody knows that. And despite a bit of raining throughout the week, and looks like on Saturday there could be a bit of a clear period where we get some solid rugby done whilst the weather holds itself off. So the last game the French played against Scotland, some key areas here. The French really has some impressive defense, 88% completion rate. The Scottish team had the Scottish attack is much more lethal, in my opinion, than the English attack, with more variety and more polish and much more unpredictable kicking game out of Finn Russell. So with that being said, the French was able to hold off the Scottish deep attack quite convincingly. The discipline is quite good for the French team for all 3 rounds. 10, I think, was the highest out of all 3 rounds. I think it was all less than 10 for the previous rounds against previous oppositions, against Italy and Ireland were both less than 10. And this is just, and with that being said, this game against England, the discipline will be a huge factor with determining the result of the game. When it comes to England, last round against Wales was really kind of like washed up team, wasn't really performing that well. But England did defend really well against the Welsh attack. 91% tackle completion rate. And one of the key area has been, and a key theme for the England side, and I'm very excited for as well, is the English scrum. The English scrum has been quite dominant over Scotland, over the Italians, over Wales, especially over the Welsh. 5 scrum lost, so 5 tight heads for England. They did concede 2 penalties against themselves as well. But yeah, overall, the English scrum was quite good. The English discipline is also quite good against the Welsh, but I don't think the discipline is nearly as good in the previous rounds. But we have to see if that's going to continue for England with the penalty discipline being on their side. Now the referee is going to be Ben O'Keefe from New Zealand. He is the best referee out of the Kiwi sides. He is a little bit like Barnsley. He does, like to, sometimes he might see things a little bit more leeway to keep the game afloat. And I think that Ben O'Keefe is a little bit less controversial than Barnsley, but I've seen him, calling absorbing tackles, a few absorbing tackles in Super Rugby. So we might see a couple of red cards being, potential red cards not being called, but given out as yellow instead. So which I think is a positive for having Ben O'Keefe on the field. Now let's have a look at the lineup, right? And as I mentioned, Ellis Genji, the scrummaging, it's going to be a huge issue. And I think the big advantage that the English have is Ellis Genji against the relatively new player Dorian Aldegheri. For the French coming in at the tight head prop. And Ellis Genji has been really, really good in all 3 rounds against his opposition. He's been able to quite easily get underneath the opposition and really, being able to pop the tight head out quite a number of times against in the previous 2 rounds. So even against Ireland, he was doing quite well. So to my surprise, I did feel like Irish probably had a better scrum. But Ellis Genji really showed that it wasn't Ty Furlong on the tight head side, but Ellis Genji really showed that he was, one step above the Irish scrum on the day. And coming in the hooker position coming in that loose air proposition is Sarah Bai. He's actually quite a good hooker for the French. The loose air pro for the French. Sarah Bai coming in at number 1 jersey. Jamie George, number 2, the only kind of like hooker that's left for the England side. I'm really happy to. I always thought Jamie George is better than what's his name, Cowan Dickey. But Cowan Dickey is a little bit better ball. I think it's my favoritism towards Jamie George, but I'm really happy to see him here. Cowan Dickey is injured, so Jamie George is kind of like the only like experienced hooker that's left for England, getting that number 2 jersey. Julian Marquand comes in number 2 for the French, and Kyle Sinclair gets number 3 jersey for England. The front rowers adds up that the England front rowers has a slight weight advantage in about, how much was it? I think it was 5 kilos or something, a slight weight advantage over the French front rowers. But overall, the 4-pack, the French actually has a slight weight advantage in combined from 1 all the way down to 8 by 1 kilograms. So yeah, not really too much to say there. But there is another thing that the French might, there's another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the size of the 4-pack. So moving on to the locks, Maori Itoje comes in number 4 for England. Again, Maori Itoje, that discipline has greatly improved. At the breakdown, something that was a bit of a joke in the last couple of years, has greatly improved. Thibault Flament comes in for number 4 for the French. And number 5, Ollie Chesham, has really secured number 5 jersey. And I really do think that the scrummaging is better, is because Chesham is at 5. And over the last few weeks, really, the England scrum hasn't really looked really dominant, and the locks has a large part to do with it as well. Paul Willems comes in number 5 for the French, the veteran nowadays we can almost call him, and comes in at the blindside flanker position, Lewis Ludlam for England. And again, he has been ever since Steve Bothwell brought him into the number 6 jersey, has been quite physical with the ball carrying for England out of number 6 jersey. Francois Croc is a new addition, I guess, caught into the French team. A little bit of change for the 4-pack for Fabien Galtier. Number 7, Jack Willis gets caught in for England. I think Tom Curry is injured again, so Jack Willis gets number 7 jersey. Charles Ollivon, the former captain, gets number 7 jersey once again for French. Ollivon actually has been improving on his discipline and on his tackling quite a bit. Like in the first round, he was really like off, and then in the following 2 rounds, he really got himself into that the level that we were kind of expecting for the French national team. And number 8, Alex Dombrandt. Again, really just big brutalizer for the England side. A lot of physicality come out of him in last 2 rounds. Last 3 rounds now. We'll be seeing that again against the French. We'll be needing to see that from him again against the French. And Gregory Aldridge comes in at number 8 for the French side. So the one point that I want to talk about before I move on to the bench is that the one thing I think the French might have a slight advantage of England is height. Now, height is not exactly the perfect indicator when it comes to line-out success because people have longer arms and everything. So just pure height is not a clear indicator that's gonna be that means that it's not exactly gonna be indicate that the line-out's gonna be taller, the jumper's gonna be jumping up higher. Not exactly that, but the French do have especially in the third lock, his third potential jumping option. Charles Ollivon is almost 2 meters, whereas England are all around 190. So when it comes to that long ball, the French could potentially have a slight advantage there over the English. So we shall see if the French will kind of exploit that a little bit with the lineouts going long for the most part, especially in their attacking. Closer to the English goal line. Now coming into the back line, a few changes for both teams. A couple of changes for both teams. So Jack Van Povier stays number 9 for England. Obviously, we'll talk about the Big Ten change. Marcus Smith just coming in once again brings a lot more speed than Owen Farrell. A lot of sharpness. The one thing that Marcus Smith is lacking a little bit, again, in comparison to Owen, is that defense. So Marcus Smith's tackle isn't that great. Out of that, his attack flair, his speed, his goal kicking, and his kicking game overall, I think is probably a little bit better than Owen Farrell in that regard. For the French, Antoine Dupont, the best number 9 in the world a couple of years running now, is once again for the French. I do think that Antoine Dupont look a little bit lost these days. I do think that they need to get the captaincy off him. It's probably just bogging him down a little bit with too much thinking on the field, and it's kind of like hindering his decision making a little bit. Just a bit too much for him to be like free and creative on the field with the captaincy at hand. I think it's a big mistake from Fabien Gaultier. Romain Ntamack, the number 10 for the French. Again, super good, fast, and him next to Antoine Dupont is almost like 2 playmakers on the field out of the 9-10 channel. Number 11, Anthony Watson returned last match to a try, so he's looking to keep improving all that form he had last year against Wales. Ethan Demortier comes in number 11 for French once again. Ollie Lawrence, he scored that winning try last week against 2 weeks ago against Wales, and he really looked like the legitimate, the physicality, the speed, just the energy that he brings. That number 12 jersey is something that England has been craving for quite a while now, something that Eddie Jones really kind of needed for when he really lacked, I guess, when he was in charge. So Ollie Lawrence, with that emphatic try, really kind of like secured that 12 jersey for himself. Jonathan Danty returns for the French at number 12. Another physical guy, so this physicality matchup in the center position is really, be quite spectacular to see this weekend. Henry Slade gets an outside center position for England. Gael Fickou gets number 13 for French. Fickou was the man of the match last match against Scotland. So this weekend will be a huge game from Fickou for the French. So Max Malins comes in number 14. Damien Pennold, the guy that just keeps scoring tries, cannot be tackled sometimes, it seems like, gets number 14 jersey for French. And finally, at number 15, Freddie Stewart, the best fullback for England. Again, probably the best player for England for quite a while now, for a few matches now. Comes in number 15. And Thomas Ramos, again, also probably one of the most important players, one of the best players in the French lineup. The kicking game from the Ramos is just spectacular. I do think that Freddie Stewart's kicking game is a little bit lacking compared to Ramos. And if Freddie Stewart probably will under the high ball, well, it's been incredibly good. Probably we'll see him run the ball a bit more instead of a kicking, because Ramos will carve you up if you put up a bad return kick down the midfield. Now on the bench, so the finishers, even the French calls these finishers, but the English would like to call them the bench, the reserves. So for the English reserves, Jack Walker comes in number 16, Michael Vinopola is number 17, and Dan Cole comes in at number 18. And Cole has been incredibly good for England coming off the bench, and once again just giving people huge troubles in that loose head side. So yeah, the English scrum coming off the bench once again looking quite scary against the French, especially with their injuries at the tight head prop position. Yeah, we shall see how this is gonna go. So Peto Movaka comes in number 16 for the French. Reda Vardy comes in number 17 for French, number 17, and number 18 for the French. Sipili Falatea retains it again, gets number 18 jersey. I was surprised that he didn't just get pushed up to the starting number 3, but he gets the finisher role at number 18 once again. Again, I think Dan Cole is just so good in the last few rounds. Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I want to see some huge scrums out of Coles this weekend. David Ribbons comes in at number 19 for England. Romain Taufefe-Noah comes in 19 for the French. Romain is just a huge brutalizer coming off the bench. His size just really adds a more physicality for the French team in that forwards battle. Ben Curry comes in at number 20 for England. Siku Makalu comes in number 20 for French. Makalu is technically, he can play back as well. So the French technically has like an additional back on the bench potentially. Makalu plays loose forwards, but he could fill in as a back if needed. So really interesting. France usually have kind of like a pseudo 6-2 split with Makalu play like the sixth forward slash back, but with him being the fifth forward instead of the sixth forward, means that the French potentially has an extra back on the bench. So yeah, really interesting to see how that's going to go. I'm surprised the French didn't have that, opted for an additional back this weekend than traditional 6-2 split, because I do feel like the England 4-pack is quite formidable, and the England will be looking to punish you at the set piece. Yeah, so I'm actually surprised that Galtier opted for the traditional split here. For England, Alex Mitchell comes in number 21. Maxime Couillot for France, number 21. Owen Farrell gets the bench at number 22. Yoram Moefana also gets dropped to the bench at number 22 for Jonathan Dante. Henry Arundel finished off the England team at number 23. And Melvin Jaminet returns to the forward at number 23. He has been injured a little bit, and he has been spectacular for French last year. So yeah, Jaminet returns to number 23. Yeah, quite a impressive backline finishers there for the French side. So we have to see how this game is going to turn. It looks like Galtier is going to thinks that this game is going to be won on the backline. I do think that the scrummaging for the England side is going to be, and the set piece of the England team, I think the scrummaging will be the big dominant part for the England side. And yeah, Borthwick has a golden opportunity here to really put the hammer down on this French team, I think, especially in the set piece. But let me know your thoughts. I think England's going to win this one by 10. 32 points to 22. Let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe. Yada, yada, yada. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.